Namaste. I'm Callie, and I'm here with Kat and Ashlyn at True Nature Healing Arts in Carbondale, Colorado. And we're so excited to bring you a water element class. This is a yin sequence to address any congestion in the water meridian, that energetic highway that funnels prana, funnels the life force into the kidneys, which is the organ for the water essence. And the kidneys, it's always said, are like the favorite child of all of the organs, because each organ ultimately depends upon the balanced state of kidneys. So the chi force that will reinvigorate this line will serve as a foundation for the vitality through the rest of the system. Let's start in a butterfly forward bend. We'll bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. And some of you might want to sit up on a block. So I'm going to give Ashlyn a block to model that. If you are raising the pelvis, the endeavor is that the pubic bone is lower than the sacrum. So you can forward with that same orientation from the hips along the length of the spine. Good. So once you've found a pose that feels sustainable, remember that the yin pantheon of practice life necessitates that we hold each shape for anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes, and that's to access the opening of the connective tissue and the fibers of the belly muscles, to engender the lubrication and also the lengthening of these prana pathways. Now the kidney meridian, the water element pathway, specifically starts at the soles of the feet, exactly where we're beginning today. The kidney 1 point, it's often called bubbling spring. And the kidney line wraps up the inner arch of the feet and along the length of the calf, just behind the kneecap, where you're finding a healthy compression, almost like we're damming the flow of chi behind the kneecap, so that when we do come into extension, we can pull that accumulation of prana up in along the line, which then comes through the hamstrings and up through the sacral plate and along either side of the spine. The kidney channel branches out through the kidneys, touches the liver, the spleen, the lungs, and ends in the collarbones. So this pose is just, I find, such a beautiful way to begin the intention of pulling lubrication through this line of luster. The water channel, which creates juiciness in the joints and a buoyancy in the breath and that succulence in the skin, glistening to the eyes. This is our line of youthfulness. Let's take 3 more breaths right here, softening somehow even more into the forward bend. Beautiful. Before you roll up, just start to flirt with the weight of the body, pulling back evenly to the tip of the left and right sit bone. Yeah. And then from the low belly, start to pull back towards the base of the spine and roll up the trajectory of central channel where the kidney line runs along the length of the vertebral column as you come all the way up to seated. Good. Let's take a moment here and just cross the shins, one in front of the other. And bring one hand to the low belly and another to the heart, either one. And I often like to come into a contemplative pose after a yin pose, just a moment of reflection, reintegration, resonance. Want to engender the qualities of water in this practice, most notably the feature of water that moves effortlessly. It yields to obstruction, so it knows its limits. And yet it finds the path of least resistance, so carving its way seamlessly around tension. Water carves canyons over time. It shapes the whole world. So the practice today will be surrendering, melting into tension and finding a way through resistance to carve deeper channels. Let's take a breath from the belly and fill the heart on the inhale. And on the exhale from the heart, slide awareness and the whole reservoir of the breath back down to the belly. Again, inhaling, belly to the heart. And exhale, just practice softening, letting go, settling in. One more time like that. A breath that lingers in the deeper pockets of the body, the bliss body, the open dimensions. Melting tension on the exhales. Good. Now we're going to undam that kidney point behind the knees and come into a wide-legged forward bend. So straddle pose with the legs. And some of you might like to bring a bolster and plug it right into the pubic bone so that you can have a little bit of support as the body folds forward. Good. Yeah. And then just feeling that almost instantaneous reverberation of prana from behind the kneecaps, like it floods through the patella and all the way up and in to the bowl of the pelvis. This water kingdom, which hosts the golden orbs of the ovaries and the essence of the kidneys themselves, this womb space of creativity. The water realm of resiliency. This is what the kidney energy dictates in the body. A youthfulness, a luster for life, the creative spark, sexual responsiveness. Kidneys in Chinese medicine are linked to our reproductive capacities. That vigor, that vitality. Available most readily when we've lessened our grip and gone with the flow of the path of least resistance. So see if you can find that now. Any areas of tension, rather than avoiding or fighting against the walls of resistance, the edges that you meet in the pose. Meet it fluidly with the full-bodied breath of inquisitive, easeful curiosity. Often the inquiry I like to bake into a water practice, to reset the nervous system, to unhinge our grips, to move more fluidly, to be more curious and creative, is what's it like now? What's it like now? We're feeling that water channel now as it comes through the hamstrings, into the sit bones, and through the porous but dense bone of the sacrum. We're feeling that line as it feeds into the spine. We'll take 3 more rounds of breath here. What's it like now? Go all the way empty on that last exhale. Empty through the very bottom tissues of the lungs. Hold on empty for a moment. The kumbhaka, that creative potential of the next inhale, is born. And then draw the spine up as you take a breath in. Gorgeous. Keep the legs as they are, and for a moment just settle the weight of the body on the hands behind you. And this fluid curiosity as we weave really luxuriously the reposes in between the asana. This is where the benefits of the preceding posture are absorbed into the cells. And taking a moment of space, of emptiness, so that we're not feeding the nervous system with this never-ending need of moving from one task to the next, moving from one pose to the next. When's the last time you let yourself just get bored? Let's take a breath in from the belly to the heart again. And it springboards down from the base of the throat back to the belly on the exhale. Nice. Let's come on into Sphinx pose, please. Legs are going to come long behind you, and you'll settle onto the pubic and rest on 2 parallel forearms. Gorgeous. So just a couple alignment cues here. The traditional suggestion for the architecture of Sphinx pose is that the elbows and shoulders are in line. I like to cheat this a little bit and walk the elbows just a little bit farther forward than the shoulder heads. And just see that that has the capacity to soften the front of the rotator cuff. And this is the place along the shoulder girdle that gets the most tax with the forward reaching tasks that we normally do. Driving, typing, and even in our yoga practice, if you're doing a lot of planks, chaturangas, down dogs. So I want this shape to be a softened opportunity to release some of the tension from the band of fascia along the front of the shoulder girdle. Part of that will be pressing down with the pubic bone. And as you press the pubic bone down, lift the low belly up towards the back of the spine. And see that that takes a little bit of weight off of the elbows, so that as you pull the navel up towards the heart, you can slide the collarbones away from the sternum, but still keep the front of the shoulder girdle soft. Nice. Now see if you can balance the tips of the ears just over the shoulder heads. And release the hinging of the jaw that often comes with long held poses. And just notice if that's a tension pattern for you. Good. And let's recommit to that work again to protect the low back and to soften the front body. So step 1, press the pubic bone down. Step 2, lift the low belly up towards the spine. Now from that lift, step 3 is like a scooping of the tissue behind the abdomen all the way up towards the heart. The sternum presses forward, the breastbone bright. Iyengar would say that this is where the sun shines from. And that will slide the clavicles, the collarbones, away from the center spine and release any gravitational pressure on the shoulder girdle. Good. I call this pose the fountain of youth. It's one of the best ways we can lubricate the kidney channel just as it runs up the length of the spine. So that compression there is like that damming of the fluidity of chi, so that once we unleash from the back bend, prana floods into the kidneys. And the kidneys sit on the base of the rib cage, just above the pelvis on the back body. Let's try this for a pranic practice to fluff up the kidneys. Keep the tops of the feet on the floor. Pubic bone presses down. And just like a cat-cow, on the inhale, go open like a cow pose. Soften the throat, cobra in the throat. And on an exhale, it's like a cat where you pull the belly, the pubic bone, and the thighs off the ground. And the tops of the feet stay on the floor. So you're working a little bit here. Pubic bone down, go open, cobra in the throat. Exhale, curl and round in, hug the low belly up. Kidneys wrap along the waistline. Good, keep going. Fluidity of the lumbar and the sacral region of the spine, the fluffing up of the roots of the kidneys, and the lengthening of that line. This time, as the pubic bone grounds, open through the front body, bend the knees, and flex the feet, soles of the feet towards the sky. Remember, that's the kidney 1 points. And then drop the feet down, hug it in. Good. Keep going. Bend the knees, go open. Extend the legs and hug it in. We'll go 3 more times here. Some of you, as you bend the knees, might want to press up onto the hands as well and lengthen the arms. And pick a back bend to hold. You can bend the knees or keep them on the ground. You can be in the Sphinx with the upper body or seal pose with the arm bones straightened. We'll take 3 more breaths here, inhaling belly, that hara space up into the heart. Exhale, heart down to the hara, where the roots of the kidneys feed. Inhale, heart to heart. And exhale, come all the way down. Stack the hands and release that dam at the low back. And just give another moment of boredom, of repose, the doing nothing, the kind of brilliance of water elasticity, resiliency is effortless flow. Back body soft, expansive. Front body drips into the ground. The boredom state is a chance for the brain to enter into REM cycling, same as deep, deep sleep, where creative insights occur, where the healing of immunological functions are possible, the neuroplasticity, the malleability of our neural pathways refabricated, rerouted into deeper states of ease. And that only happens when we allow the self to unhinge from the tasks that we identify with. In those pockets of presence that lack productivity, we're able to find deeper inherent worth, a value uninterrupted, not because you've done something, but just because you are. Let's come on up into a tabletop. And you're going to bring a bolster, if you have it, along the length of the mat. If you don't have a, you could use a block, you could fold up a blanket, even a nice thick towel, coming into a supported back bend here. So Ashlyn on this side has a block underneath the bolster, and that's just going to lift the spine up from the ground. So it's a different orientation of the back bend. You can pick your poison. We're going in here. Sacrum comes to the distal end of the prop. And the legs are going to be long here as we slide the spine along the length of whatever prop you've chosen. Root the heads of the femur bones down so you can find that natural curvature in the lumbar spine exaggerated along the lip of the foot. This will also help the expansiveness in the low belly. Find that buoyancy of breath. Now the opposite of the boredom state, which is again so healing to the regenerative capacities of the nervous system, is fear. Fear as an all-encompassing emotion of resistance that taxes the kidneys specifically. The kidneys in Chinese medicine are said to host the emotion of fear. Because the water element is intrinsically related to the nervous system, the kidneys often mirror a state of fight or flight. And of course, the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys, right? Renal in Latin means kidney, and ad means on top of. So from a Chinese medicine perspective, the adrenals and the kidneys are one organ that hosts the water essence and can become imbalanced if an excessive amount of fear has flooded the system. We'll use these more restorative poses to sequence through any accumulation of trauma, right? Any overwhelming experience in which fear has flooded the tissues. We'll start to beckon in more of the boredom state, that beautiful, blissful emptiness. See if you can find that here. We'll do 3 last breaths in this pose. But instead of that pranic pattern of the inhales from the belly to the heart, we're going to reverse the flow of chi to help sequence out any last tension in the torso. So on the inhale, you'll do the opposite. You'll take a breath from the heart and fill the low belly. And then on the exhale, you'll empty from the low lungs, like you're draining the kidneys and emptying out through the heart. So inhale, heart down. And practice that fluidity of the descent into the hara on the inhale, and then exhale, hara, emptying through the heart. One more time. Inhaling, heart down to the hara, the belly wisdom center. Exhale, hara to the heart. Beautiful. Release that inner method. What's it like now? Okay. We're going to move into a side bend with the same prop as is. It's going to come underneath the right side body. As you bend your knees, bump them over to the right. And the outer edge of the right hip and the right rib cage along the length of the prop. And some of you will reach the left hand up and overhead. Others might just rest with the hand in front of the sternum. Grounding through the pelvis and finding a subtle curvature from the ilium on the right side, the top of the right hip bone, all along that fluid curvature of the waistline where the kidney floats and bends. Just taking a few breaths here. Good. We'll come into a twist. So I want you to think about that length along the waistline you just created. As you lift the torso up just about halfway, frame the prop with either hand towards the prop, and then twist from that space of the baseline, the base of the rib cage, twisting open. Cactus the elbows. Let the collarbones and the front of the shoulder girdle soften. Some of you will keep the right temple down. Others might want the twist in the cervical spine. If the neck is healthy, you can flip the gaze over and bring the left temple down. The kidneys are the purification center of the body. It's said that the kidneys filter over 50 gallons of blood every day. And as they filter, they're removing toxic aspects, water-soluble toxins from the bloodstream, and preparing them for excretion. Then they are replenishing the bloodstream with valuable nutrients, so removing what's harmful and supplementing that with refined pH balance, the water and salt distribution, amino acids, electrolytes, vitality coursing through the bloodstream, which mirrors the same pathways that the meridians pull prana through the body. And the kidneys govern the balanced state of both. Fluid mechanisms for delivering what's essential through the host. And that detoxification is aided by spinal rotations where the kidney channel spirals along the length of the spine. It's said that healthy chi moves in spirals. Oh, organizing the organism to host the spiraling of the chi body here. We'll give it 3 more breaths. We'll come out the same way we came in. So at the bottom of the last exhale, if the left temple's down, go ahead and reset the gaze just to neutralize the cervical spine, the neck. And then from here, coming out the same way we came in, it's through the side bend of just a moment of that lateral flexion to open up, to lengthen laterally. Good. And then we'll just pivot all the way onto the other side, dropping the knees over to the left. Plug the left hip in to the prop, and we'll take the side bend on the other side. First, getting long as you plug that left hip into the mat, anchoring through the pelvis. And creating as much length as you can between the top of the left ilium and the bottom of the left rib cage. This is where the kidney sits. So you might even breathe into that space on the inhale. And exhale, that fluidity of the chi body might spread along the torso and even into the root of the pelvis. Let's give it a few breaths like that. Inhaling into kidney on the right side. And exhale, distribute the chi source. Again, inhale. Exhale. Breathing in, lighting up the inner body. Breathing out that effortless flow. And coming up about halfway now, lifting the sternum, the torso off the prop. Bring the weight back into the pelvis. Frame the bolster with either hand and spin from the belly as you come onto the prop, taking the twist. We'll bring the left cheek down first. See if that feels supportive to the spiraling of energy from the sacrum to the occiput at the base of the skull. And if you're craving more rotation in the upper body, you can bring the right temple down. Flip the gaze, cactus the elbows, go soft here through the chest, the humerus bones, all the way through the elbows. And soften in to safety. The sense that though overwhelming experiences have occurred and will again, that there are ways to coax the chi body back into stillness so that we might unburden ourselves from the stress patterns we normally take residence in. Quite literally, in these restorative poses, we're creating a template out of the organism, a way of being that knows how to rest. Even if outside of the micro universe of the pose, there are difficulties to endure. But finding this inner sense of space and safety will free us to be more fully present in the moments that require tenacity. So we'll have to get familiar regularly with the state of undoing. That way, when the world requires us to do or to act with vigilance, we'll be resourced, we'll be rested, and we can bring our whole selves there. Three breaths. And it's the neutralizing of the neck first, flipping the gaze if the right cheek is down. Feel that evenness along the spine. As you come into the side bend, reintroducing that curvature, that lateral flexion. Good. Go ahead and sit up. And if you have a bolster, let's try this. Let's take another version of a supported back bend where the prop is perpendicular to the length of the mat. And when you come back, you'll come all the way back so that the shoulders and the base of the skull rest on the other end of the prop. So the highest thing as you come on back is going to be the frontal ribs. The arms can come up and overhead. Beautiful. And this is going to be the final resting pose to reintroduce that really beautiful curvature in the low spine where the kidney channel feeds up from the pelvis. As you begin to yield to gravity, the tension of resistance might melt into the background, so that in the foreground you can mingle the mindfulness inquiry again. What's it like now? And that merging with the creative consciousness opens up a state in the nervous system where this feature of the water essence might fill all the cells. Curiosity. For greeting this moment and the unfolding of the animal body, the releasing of the inner body with the gentle inquiry. What's it like now? If you're really busy this week and have things to do after this practice, then I'll invite you to actually pause the video as is and stay in the pose longer. It's like that age-old suggestion. You should meditate for 30 minutes a day, and if you're too busy to do that, you should meditate for an hour every day. Practice routinely the undoing, because the human psyche tends to forget the inherent value of emptying. And if you're ready to move on, we'll bend into the knees, and you can meet us in a formal closing together, coming through a fetal position onto either side. And slowly, languidly, luxuriously, indulgently making your way back to seated. Take your time. We'll close the same way we started, the mudra that reminds us of integration between the low belly wisdom side of the hara. One hand there and another to the heart. I'll share with you this prayer I have on my altar, and I recite it every day. This reminder of the importance of keeping the inquiry alive, this gentle curiosity for the preciousness of life. So the human body at peace with itself is more precious than the rarest gem. Cherish your body. It is yours, this one time only. All worldly things are brief, like lightning in the sky. This life you must know as the tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears, even as it comes into being. Therefore, recall your inspiration and your aspiration, and resolve to make use of every day and every night to realize